Welcome to AP Lawyers Family and Divorce Law Podcast, where we have real conversations about relationships, family, and everything in between. I'm going to be your host. My name is Angela Princewill, and today we're diving into a topic that so many people quietly struggle with, and that's the emotional fallout of a relationship. So, whether it's a breakup, separation, divorce, the emotional pain can often linger long after the legal battles have resolved. And that's why joining me today is someone who's dedicated her work to helping women heal through this exact process, right? So I'm being joined by Kim Omoruyi. Kim is a therapist who leads a powerful 6-week group program designed specifically for women navigating emotional recovery after a relationship ends. And so I'm hoping in this conversation, Kim, that we'll be able to explore what emotional healing looks like, why it's important, and sort of practical steps that women can take to move from heartbreak, I guess, to healing. But first off, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. I appreciate it. And for our listeners who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to do the work you're doing?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure. Yeah, so a bit about my own background is I started in this field of therapy about 20 years ago. I'm a certified music therapist, so I worked as a music therapist for several years. And then at some point, I wanted a bit of a change. I should also say that back in 2016, I became a registered psychotherapist. A college was developed in Ontario for psychotherapists. So I needed a bit of a change, and I worked in administrative roles, but I found I really missed therapy and really missed working with people. So I pivoted a little bit. Now I do talk therapy. I took, some more education and some more courses and whatnot just to learn different approaches and whatnot that wasn't music therapy per se, although I might still use music in some of my work. So now I see people individually, virtually or in person, and also run some groups. And I mostly focus on women going through some sort of life transition. And certainly a divorce is a very significant life transition.
Yes, it really is. But I mean, it's amazing what you do. And I mean, you have shared with me the work that you do with women in smaller groups. Can you talk a little bit about the, program that you run?
Yeah, sure. A few times a year, I run a program called Moving Forward, and it's a 6-week group. I run it virtually. There's often an in-person portion as well for people who prefer the in-person. And, when I myself was going through my separation, I was on some Facebook groups and whatnot, and it was a great place to vent, but it seemed like a lot of the women were needing some additional support. They seem to feel quite isolated. And I did a quick search to see if there were groups available for women going through divorce and whatnot, and they're few and far between, which seemed really surprising to me.
Yeah.
So I created this group. I wanted it to be something beyond venting. I wanted it to be a process. I wanted the women to start at one place and feel like they could see a path forward at the end of it. So just in a nutshell, where we start is just try and help them identify where they are in terms of emotions, expectations, stories they're telling themselves. Because in the midst of separation or divorce, there's so many practical things that need to be taken care of, where you're going to live, do you have enough money, who's making the doctor's appointments for the kids, all this stuff that there isn't really much of a chance to focus inward. So at the very least, it gives the women a chance to do that. So we start with just identifying, what's come up for you. And then we move through an arc of then identifying what's important to you and then some practical ways to move forward. So that's sort of the arc of the group.
Amazing. No, that sounds great. And do you find that after the 6 weeks, like people are kind of ready to transition out of the program?
I certainly notice a difference in the women. The first few sessions are quite heavy, very emotion laden. By the end of it, there's more levity. There seems to be more hope. There's more interaction. That's the byproduct of having a group, is that they get to connect with each other, and some will carry on to be supports for each other later on. And the women, they come to the group at different stages. Some might have just been blindsided, possibly. Some, it might be a couple years later. So they might be coming at different stages. And so, that would impact what kind of process they're going through and where they might end up at the end. But unfortunately, I don't get to stay in touch with them after the group. So I'm always curious about how they're doing, but there is a significant change in the last session versus the first, and I even get them to rate their quality of life and their degree of stress as well, and there's usually a bit of a shift.
Well, I mean, hey, that's nice that you're coming in, Kim, because this is why I wanted us to have that conversation. Like you come in and you deal with the emotional part and you have the skills and the training to do that. And as you said,
Mhm.
I'm on the practical end of things, right? Like
Mhm.
who's paying what and how are
Yes.
you getting that? And I find, and that's why I like to have these conversations because I know that it's a lot more than what I do. But unfortunately, that's what I'm trained to do. And it does need to get done. We need to make those practical decisions. But I like to connect my listeners with people like you who actually deal with that, the emotional side and just let people know that it's okay. And, while I am dealing with the practical things, I recognize that there is that emotional part. And I want to be able to connect my clients with people like yourself that are helping. So at least now we've set that up. There's an opportunity to work with you and all of that. I wanted to see what we can give, what strategies can they start with right away. So just share some of your experience with me. Like what are some of the emotional challenges that you find that women face at the end of a relationship or marriage?
Yeah, a few things. As I mentioned, isolation seems to be a big one. Feeling alone in their struggle. They might have friends or acquaintances, but typical of women, they don't want to burden other people with their problems. So they get to a point where they feel like they need to be okay or pretend they're okay. So definitely isolation. And I do encourage women to share, be discerning about who you share with, but maybe plant little seeds with some other acquaintances because I find that sometimes when you share what's going on with you, you'll be surprised by where support will come from. Um, and that kind of support is going to carry you through. So I would say open up. Again, be discerning about who you open up to. And maybe there are people in your life that you might not expect will support you that will come forward. I would say also just to feel the feelings. A lot of people just want to push through because who wants to feel sad or angry? But it's really important to be aware of those feelings. When you catch yourself ruminating, if only, 10 years ago I would have done XYZ or my future, what's my future? When you find yourself going too far in the future or too far in the back, learning techniques to be present, be grounded. So there's some mindfulness techniques you can do. You can even look online for some very quick meditations. People
Okay.
often have preconceived ideas about what a meditation is, but it could just be
Yeah.
coming right back. Like, yes, I feel sad, I feel angry, but right now this is what's in front of me. So those are some things, and just to be in it, because pushing through it, avoiding some of these feelings might not really help you heal.
Feel what you're feeling and just, I guess, don't feel pressure to move on too quickly. I guess you said it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling how you're feeling and get through it and that's okay. Do you get concerned though about someone maybe getting stuck in that spot where they're just, they're not able to move on? How do we kind of reconcile that?
Mhm.
Because yes, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. I mean, if it's being alone and isolated, that's kind of like hard. But if a person is feeling, say, anger or feelings of revenge, what can they do in that scenario?
I think it is really difficult to do it alone. So, first, acknowledging, being aware of those feelings. And what else is helpful is, there's feelings, there's thoughts, there's stories we tell ourselves. So, if you find some quiet time to really focus on what it is that's coming up for me and seeing if any of it's familiar, if you felt this before, because then that might suggest a bit of a deeper dive into what's going on for you. Because along with the awareness, there's some work that might need to be done. Otherwise, you're going to feel yourself stuck in the same place. So awareness, but if you don't do the work, and that the work can mean reading some books, talking to a therapist if you can. I know it's not feasible for everybody. It can can cost a bit of money, but there are some well-trained and well-supervised interns that offer lower cost. This kind of thing is hard to work through by yourself. So I would say doing the work. A lot of people do come to me who are feeling stuck. That's what they say, because they
Yeah.
have been ruminating. They've been in the cycle of going back, going forward, going back, going forward.
Yeah.
So they might just need someone to give them a bit more perspective and hone in on what they need to do to move beyond this. And it could be
Okay. That's
acknowledging patterns, changing patterns, and getting a better sense of what's important to you and what you value. But it's hard to do alone.
Yeah, that's true. So that's the benefit of kind of having the group, right? And you have shared mindfulness. And I find it interesting of mindfulness as a technique that you're not necessarily saying, well, you have to do this particular mindfulness technique. You're saying, well, just look around and find something that works for yourself specifically. And that's, yeah, that is, I kind of like that because some people could sit there for an hour and meditate. Like for someone like me, I mean, good luck to me being able to sit
Mhm.
there for 8 minutes. So for me, I need shorter programs and I can't, just sit for so long without my mind wandering. So I like that you're, I guess, suggesting that everyone kind of does what works for them.
Exactly. And even with this group, I preface it, in our first session and in every subsequent session that I'm going to make suggestions. There's exercises that I have prepared, but I really suggest that the women make sure the exercises are useful and mean something to them. So if there's something they need to change slightly, if doing it in the way I asked isn't really helpful, to make it useful for them. Yeah, because it's really important to tailor it. It might not, the same thing might not be meaningful or useful to two separate people.
No, exactly. I like that. Okay, so now I'm thinking in terms of parents, because a lot of my listeners are parents. So how would you say how important is emotional healing, especially for mothers in the way, they're able to show up as parents?
And we're so naive sometimes that we think we can shelter our children and, they're not going to know I'm sad. They're not going to know I'm mad. They know, right? They know. So just to keep that in mind that children will not only will they feel, what their mother, father is feeling, they will carry that with them as well. If their mother's sad, depressed, angry, children will often carry that and they can carry that into adulthood. So
Oh,
another reason to really be aware of how, check in with yourself.
yeah.
Just to be aware of what you're putting out there in your home environment. And it's not to say that it's not okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry, but also pairing that with some conversations, some age appropriate conversations with your children. Because if they're just sensing some of this stuff and nobody's talking to them about it, they're going to create their own stories. Maybe they were responsible for
Mhm.
the breakup. Maybe mommy hates daddy. They're going to create their own stories. So mindful of how you're feeling, do some of the work to, figure out what's going on for yourself, and then have some conversations with your children and also invite them to share with you because we're not
Yeah.
hiding anything from.
Well, I mean, someone needed to call all the moms out and be like, nope, the kids know. So I like that, kid. You're calling it out and you're saying, well, they know. So no, I like that. Okay, so through all of this, like, how would someone know when they're ready to move on to the next relationship, for example? Like, is
Mhm.
there is there a way to even know that?
I wish I had the answer to that myself. I think again, awareness. I think you need to do the work, right? To check in. Is there a bit of a pattern here? What I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, has this come up before? Has this come up in other relationships?
Yes.
Explore that because or has this come up in my childhood with my parents and whatnot? And if you don't take time to work through that, it's going to keep repeating. So that's certainly something, is to maybe do some of the work, but then also just really be in it, be in like some of the difficult feelings, weekends by yourself. Just realize I can get through this. Yes, this is a very difficult time for me. It's okay that I'm sad, but I can get through this. Realize it's, temporary. And then when it comes to dating, I think something that's really important is to go into it with intention. Not only dating, but activities, getting out there, being more social. What is your intention in doing this? Is it to avoid doing the work? Is it to avoid these difficult feelings? Or is it to meet people because that's what's important to you? If you're going on a date with this person you met on Bumble, is it because you're feeling down and you want someone to boost you up? Or is it because you want to practice your social interaction? So just being really aware of why you're doing the things you're doing and do them with intention. I think that would help guide us a little bit.
Yes, I like that. And are there any things that like kind of wrong intentions that come to mind, or you just say, well, just be intentional? Like, I mean, again, without judging, I'm just thinking, well, if the reason why you're going on a date is just because you don't want to be alone, I'm wondering, is that a bad reason? But on the other hand, I'm thinking, well, it's not that bad of a reason on the
Mm-hmm,
other hand,
mm-hmm.
right? So I don't know.
Yes, exactly. There's no right or wrong to some of these scenarios. It's just being aware. Like if I'm going out every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night because I don't want to be alone, you might want to look at that. Maybe that might be a sign that I'm avoiding something. On the one-off or the occasional Saturday, I just want to get out there. I want to practice being social. I want to feel pretty and put on that nice dress. And if you're aware that that's why you're doing it, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. We get
Yeah.
that. Okay. So, I mean, hey, if somebody wants to work with you, if our listeners want to learn more about your therapy group and, the sessions and being able to connect with you for an upcoming session, how can they do that?
My website is probably the best place to reach me. I also have an Instagram account. So my website is risingpathpsychotherapy.ca. So you can learn a bit more about how I work and about some other things I'm doing. I see, yeah, I don't only work with women going through divorce. I work with people going through, like I said, life changes, loss. But yeah, this is certainly one of my it's close to my heart. It's something that I have personal experience with. So yeah, it's important to me. Rising Path Psychotherapy.
So thank you so much, Kim, for sharing your insight, your compassion, and really practical wisdom with us today because you've just given a lot of practical ideas. But you and I know that, it sounds practical when someone says it, but when you're in it, some of these thoughts don't come to you. So thanks for sharing these insights. And for those listening, and if you're going through sort of the emotional aftermath, well, as Kim said, you don't have to go through it alone. It takes time, but with the right tools and support, you can always come out stronger and more self-aware. As always, if you're looking for legal guidance, emotional support through separation and divorce, we also have our website where we have a lot of these tools. And obviously, we have a lot of podcast episodes as well. So again, thanks for listening. And until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thank you again so much, Kim, for being here today.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Angela.